seen community members stepping up to keep us safe, including so many educators. We have seen ICE agents increase presence around our school, like yesterday's attack right across the street here at Roosevelt High School, where they brutalized and detained an educator and tear gassed students at dismissal time. Shame!
Shame!
I am an educator in Minneapolis Public Schools, and I'm only able to be present here today because Minneapolis Public Schools are closed for the day and for the rest of the week because students, families, and staff do not feel safe going to school. Shame!
Shame!
We stand in full solidarity with the immigrant community in Minneapolis and with all who are patrolling the streets to keep our neighborhoods safe and fighting back against ICE terror. We demand justice for Renee Good. This includes the immediate arrest of the killer ICE agent, the immediate release of his identity to the public. We demand a real sanctuary policy in all of Minnesota that prohibits any local law enforcement or city or state officials from working with ICE at every level of Minnesota government, including the city, county, and state.
Yes. Yes.
And we demand ICE out of Minnesota and legalization for all.
Yes.
And so with that, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Alvin Shang with the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee. Woo-hoo.
My name is Alvin Sheng, and that's ALVIN SHENG, and I am a member of the Minnesota Immigrant Rights Action Committee, MIRAC. The previous Sunday, the Trump administration deployed 2,000 ICE agents to Minneapolis as part of a targeted attack on our Somali and Latine communities. Kristi Noem and Gregory Bovino themselves visited the Twin Cities accompanied by a parade of militarized agents and vehicles to manufacture xenophobic propaganda against our community. However, we will not be cowed into giving up our civil rights in the face of this aggression. This was a follow-up to the so-called Operation Metro Surge, which started in December of last year, where ICE agents started prowling our neighborhoods and kidnapping our immigrant neighbors with a much higher intensity than before. This was the moment that spontaneous rapid response networks and those organized by MIRAC, Immigrant Defense Network, and Monarca kicked into high gear. The people participating in these networks have been heroic. We should keep up the effort, but also remember to remain as united as possible by following the St. Paul principles and put the impacted immigrants' needs first. I want to take a moment to recognize that it is a scary time. Our neighbors are being kidnapped off the streets as we speak. However, the response to this should not be isolating ourselves, but leaning even more on our community. Yesterday, a 37-year-old constitutional observer, Renee Nicole Good, was shot and killed by ICE agents while driving away when they were conducting a raid in South Minneapolis. In the wake of Renee's murder, 10,000 people showed up on Portland Avenue to express their grief and commitment to stand up for their immigrant neighbors. This is in addition to the vigils and protests that have erupted across the country, many of which were organized by the chapters of the Legalization for All network. Rest in peace, Renee Nicole Good. Thank you for standing up for our immigrant neighbors. We absolutely have the numbers. The more we show up for each other, the safer all of us will be. So get trained, get organized, and show up for each other. Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
That's right. It's not the police nor Walz's National Guard, but ultimately us, the community, that keeps us safe. This is illustrated by the recent passage of a stronger sanctuary city ordinance in Minneapolis, which was only possible through the grassroots efforts of MIRAC and immigrant rights allies. To maintain our momentum, please join us at the rally and march this Saturday at 1 p.m. at the northwest corner of Powderhorn Park, where we'll celebrate our victory and hold our Minneapolis leaders accountable to the stronger separation ordinance. When immigrant rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
Damn right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jay Yates with the Twin Cities Coalition for Justice.
My name is Jay. I'm with the Twin Cities Coalition for Justice, a Black and queer-led organization fighting in solidarity against police brutality and stands in solidarity with all struggles for liberation. We are a branch of the National Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression and the People's Action Coalition Against Trump. First, I want to say that on behalf of everyone in TCC4J, I offer my sincerest condolences to Renee Good's wife, children, and remaining family. She represents the core of what makes us human, the instinct to stand up for her neighbors and offer everything she could in the name of justice. She was killed because she knew what ICE is doing to our immigrant communities is wrong and had joined thousands of people exercising their legal right to film and observe law enforcement. We will never forget her or her sacrifice. But we must also not forget that her death is not the first murder ICE has on its hands. 32 people have died in ICE custody just in 2025, and 2/3 of the 1,800 detainees held at the Alligator Alcatraz concentration camp are still missing. Keith Porter, a Black California resident, was murdered by an off-duty ICE agent on New Year's Eve, less than a week prior to them killing Renee. His murder, too, was justified by a false narrative pushed by DHS that the officer who killed him feared for his life, a narrative contradicted by eyewitnesses. Miramar Martinez, who also was legally observing ICE in Chicago, was shot 5 times by ICE agent Charles Exum, who bragged that he'd fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. Miramar luckily survived and defeated her charges of domestic terrorism, but 2025 was yet again a year with well over 1,200 deaths at the hands of law enforcement nationwide, and there were only 6 days the entire year that police didn't kill anyone. Here in our city, our police force has its own long, bloody history of murdering Black and Indigenous people and justifying it after the fact by saying they feared for their lives. Minneapolis Police Department lied about George Floyd being on drugs to shield Derek Chauvin from responsibility for his torturously slow death. Philando Castile was murdered in his car with his girlfriend and child present. Jamar Clark's killers lied and said he was a domestic violence suspect that reached for their gun despite him being handcuffed when he was shot. Amir Locke was asleep and they killed him within seconds of entering his apartment because they thought that he had a gun. His killer, Mark Hanneman, not only faced 0 consequences, he got a promotion. These deaths were just as wrong as Renee's. We must understand Renee's murder not as an isolated tragedy, but a link in a long chain of brutality that Black, Indigenous, and Latino communities especially have borne the brunt of. Until we accept the reality that law enforcement, whether it's DHS, ICE, FBI, or local police, have and will fabricate justifications for the murder of anyone they feel threatened by, we will not end the violence of this system. Until we accept that the foundations of law enforcement in this country are racist, that the laws and practices of these organizations began with Jim Crow and the expulsion of Native peoples from their land, we cannot end the violence of this system. Change begins with honesty. The honest truth is that we are paying for the boot on our necks. Our taxes pay for the bullets that kill our neighbors. They cannot exist without us, and yet we have no say in what they do in our neighborhoods. Ending this cycle of violence and inaction only happens if we take control and win real power over the structures that govern our lives. We must demand independent, democratic civilian oversight of all law enforcement, including the Minneapolis Police Department. We owe it to the people who we've lost and the people who still have justice denied to them. We need community control, and we will not stop until every killer cop and agent pays for their crimes. TCC4J joins the community's demands to release the names of the ICE agent who murdered our sister, prosecute, and jail him. And we join people across the country demanding that ICE get the hell out of our cities right now. Justice for Renee Good. Justice for Renee Good and all stolen lives. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Natasha Doctor, the Vice President of the Teacher Chapter of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators.
Good afternoon. My name is Natasha Doctor, and I am the Vice President of the Minneapolis Federation of Educators, and we are proud to be here today with MIRAC, a critical community organization. Yesterday was a horrific day in our community because of the continued attack by federal immigration enforcement on our city and the murder of an observer, Renee Good, a neighbor looking out for our community. Additionally, we saw the reckless and lawless nature of immigration enforcement when they came onto school grounds, deployed tear gas, and detained an educator who was doing their job at dismissal, a critical process that all schools do every day. Their actions yesterday strengthen our resolve as educators that federal immigration enforcement is not welcome in our city. And as educators and union members, we continue to demand that ICE leave our city. Our students and families deserve to be able to safely exercise their constitutional right to a public education. We keep us safe.
Right. Our next speaker is Andrew Josephchek with the Minnesota Anti-War Committee.
My name is Andrew Josephchek, ANDREWJOSEFCHAK. I'm a member of the Minnesota Anti-War Committee, which is a member of the People's Action Coalition against Trump. I've been to 2 emergency protests in the last week, one in response to the Trump administration's criminal bombing of Venezuela's capital and the illegal kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro. The second in response to ICE's summary execution of Renee Good in South Minneapolis yesterday. While there may not seem to be an immediate causal connection between the 2 events, they, in fact, are connected because they are both reflections of one and the same policy, U.S. imperialism, a policy of exploitation of the world's people at gunpoint for the benefit of the rich. ICE terror is only an escalation of an existing situation. U.S. immigrants are being driven by U.S. laws and police into a state of desperation where they're forced to work the worst jobs for the worst pay with no legal protections and no social safety net. Trump himself has already made it clear he doesn't actually plan to deport most immigrants working in agriculture or meatpacking or other dangerous, illegally underpaid jobs that rely on workers who don't have a choice, who understand that their boss could have them separated from their children at any time. What the Trump administration wants is for these people to know their place, the same way it has said that Venezuela must stay in line or face more bombings. Many immigrants come here from places like Venezuela, countries that have been subjected to devastating economic sanctions and U.S.-backed coup attempts. And while the Anti-War Committee entirely unites with MIRAC's demand for legalization for all, we believe that immigration should be a choice. It shouldn't be something that is necessitated by the fear of death or starvation. I myself have traveled through Venezuela on an international solidarity delegation, and I can tell you that what you're hearing in the media about the country, its people, and its government is as obvious a lie as Trump's claim that the man we all watched murder Renee Good yesterday on clear as day video was hit by her car and is in the hospital in critical condition. The Trump administration does not want us to believe our own eyes. In Venezuela, I saw a country that is determined to use its natural wealth to provide for all its people and not just the wealthy. I saw free healthcare programs and food distribution programs. I saw massive housing developments. I met peasant cooperatives who had been given land that had been stripped from wealthy landowners and given to them so they could use it to feed themselves and their country. I met person after person who told me how much better life had gotten since Venezuela kicked the U.S. and its oil corporations out. People who can stand up for themselves, who live free of terror, are difficult to exploit. The whole people of Venezuela have been painted with the brush of narco-terrorist for standing up for their own country, a word that has been used to justify summarily executing fishermen in the Caribbean in the same way domestic terrorist was used to justify the execution of Renee Good, who was standing up for justice and against terror right here in Minneapolis. U.S. imperialism has really come home to roost, and I want to end by reminding people of the real meaning of the word solidarity. It doesn't just mean standing up for someone else. It means that by standing up for someone else, you're standing up for yourself. It's time for everyone in the U.S. who has an interest in fighting U.S. imperialism to hit the streets, and I believe that's just about everybody in this country. Ice out of Minneapolis. Long live international solidarity. Venceremos.
Our next speaker is Alyssa Washington with the Wrongfully Incarcerated and Over-Sentenced Families Council.
Today, we are here to speak. Well, first of all, my name is Alyssa Washington. I'm the founder of the Wrongfully Incarcerated and Over-Sentenced Families Council, Minnesota. You spell my name ALISSAWASHINGTON. So today we are here to speak truth, and we will not whisper it. We are here to condemn the actions of U.S. immigration and customs enforcement agents and all those who are terrorizing our communities under false banner of law and order. What they are doing is not safety. It is fear. It is violence. It is state-sanctioned terror. Raiding homes, tearing parents from children, arresting people without due process, detaining human beings in cages. This is not justice, it's cruelty. Right. And today we must also say her name, Renee Good. Renee Good. Renee Good was an observer. She was not a threat. She was not committing a crime. She was not endangering anyone. She did not deserve to have